We will now reconvene from closed session. City Attorney announcement.
Yes, Madam Mayor, there's no announcement out of closed session this evening.
All right, so we are now adjourned, and we will go to invocation for our regular meeting, and that would be done by Councilmember Smythe.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor. And, tonight many of our residents are celebrating the close of Rosh Hashanah, which is also known as the Jewish New Year, and marks the beginning, and it's one of Judaism's holiest days. Rosh Hashanah starts the beginning of the Jewish New Year, and also is the starting point of the High Holy Days. And in the Jewish calendar, this is the start of the year 5783. The holiday also marks the beginning of 10 days of awe, a 10-day period of introspection and repentance, which ends on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. And during this time, members of the Jewish faith are often called upon to reflect on how they might have failed the year and how they can improve on those failures. So again, this year, Rosh Hashanah started at sundown on Sunday, and runs through nightfall today. So we're in the closing hours, and we just wanted to wish everybody that's celebrating Lashana Tova, which is the way of saying Happy New Year to all of our friends that are celebrating Rosh Hashanah tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Councilmember Smythe. We will now be called to order, and we'll have roll call.
Councilwoman McLean? Here. Councilmember Smythe?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem West? Mayor West?
Thank you.
You got the motor.
Here.
Mayor Pro
over.
Tem Gibbs?
Here.
And Councilmember Miranda?
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Let us have Councilmember Smythe do the flag salute.
Thank you. If you would all please rise. And repeat with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this is time for our executive meeting. Is there anybody in the council who has questions on any item on the agenda?
Mayor, just one question on number 8.
Number 8. Okay. Is there anyone who wants to pull an item? Okay. Do we have speaker cards for consent?
We have one speaker card on consent for item 8.
Okay, one. Number 8. Got it. So can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Okay.
Second.
No objections, so ordered then. We have awards and recognitions, and I will start with one that I want to do since I went to this wonderful, wonderful event. Last month, we had the United States National Showcase Figure Skating, and 5 of our local skaters who call the Cube their home rink competed and medaled in the United States Figure Skating's 2022 National Showcase in Florida. The showcase fuses figure skating with artistic creativity through the use of props, elaborate costumes, and theatrical performances. Over 400 skaters from across our country competed in singles, duets, trios, and ensemble events. I am proud to now introduce our skaters and the events they medaled in. So, can I just call them up? Okay. Jessica Kemper, Won 3 medals with 2 golds in the duet and mini production gold ensemble. While Madison Rapkeen Haley Harrison, Cadence Cugno, and Callie Haban all won the gold medal in the mini production and civil ensemble. We just want these young ladies to know they are the best example of what Santa Clarita does with our families and our kids. They are the best example. Speaking for myself and the whole council, hoorah. I think they're pretty neat. I think we need to get it.
Parents, you can get a little bit closer now.
Yeah, come on up. Get where you can get a good picture. Ladies, you were outstanding. Outstanding. Outstanding.
Ready, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Anybody want to speak? I take that as a solid no. Well, let me just say, we're honored and proud of these young ladies. We're glad you call the Cube your home. We're hoping that you will love it and stay with it and keep doing your very best. I think skating is wonderful. I'll say the word, roller skating, and if you do that, did it again, that's 2. All right, so what we want to do is give you all your skull. Let's take a picture with each one of you with your skull. Callie.
Thank you.
Jessica.
Yes.
She's loaded up.
Loaded up. There we got Madison. There you go, Madison. And then we got Callie Harrison. And we got Caden. All right. We're getting another picture with the girls all holding. Oh. Just knock me over, Cameron.
I had to get in my place.
Parents are back.
Ready, 1, 2, 3.
I know you're not sharing the ice. Congratulations, ladies.
Congratulations.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the overall.
They are amazing. That's beautiful. I know. I'm just. Let's give these athletes just another round of applause. Bill Miranda, would you do our next presentation?
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, the City of Santa Clarita is proud to recognize Hispanic Heritage Month. Hispanic Heritage Month is observed by celebrating the culture and contributions of American citizens whose ancestors come from Mexico, Spain, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. The theme of this year's Hispanic Heritage Month, as announced by the National Council of Hispanic Employment Program Managers, is Unidos, United. Inclusivity for a stronger nation. The theme encourages us to ensure that all voices are represented and welcomed to help build stronger communities and a stronger nation. Generations of Hispanic Americans have called Santa Clarita home and have positively influenced and enriched our community. Furthermore, there are many businesses in the city of Santa Clarita that are Latino-owned and contribute to the local economy, providing high-quality jobs for our residents. Hispanic residents also influenced the arts in Santa Clarita through music, movies, television, radio, art, and much more. Additionally, the Santa Clara River, the vital resource which runs through our city, was named by the Spaniards and was the inspiration for our city's name. To honor the rich Hispanic heritage in Santa Clarita and recognize the many contributions Latinos make to our community, the City of Santa Clarita proudly recognizes September 2022 as Hispanic Heritage Month. Tonight, it is my special pleasure and honor to call up a lady who has spent the great majority of her life here in Santa Clarita, even as a little girl, and has done so much for the Latino community here in Santa Clarita, Gloria Mercado Fortine.
All right. Hey. We got a shirt.
We'll take a picture first.
Can we take pictures first?
Let's get pictures.
Okay, all right. This is nice. Come and get a little closer here. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, I want to talk.
Sure, just a little.
Of course she does.
Yeah.
I'm not shy.
Not shy, but I'll keep it to a few
Let's
words.
turn it, is it on?
Yeah, it's on. Is it on? Yeah. So I'd like to thank the city for acknowledging Hispanic Heritage Month. You know, I did grow up here, and well, so did Cameron. So he'll remember too. And it is so wonderful to see the richness of our community, of our city, of our whole valley. You know, I have friends who know people from outside our valley, and they just, you know, when I tell them how diverse we are, they just can't believe it. So they still have a certain image. But it is beautiful to see how rich our diversity is, and it continues. You know, when I was growing up, there wasn't too many of us around. We did have the farm workers who would come through and work in the fields, but there weren't too many of us. So it's nice to be able to see other brown faces like mine. Because growing up, we didn't have that many. Well, we didn't have that many role models. So that's why I went into education, actually, because I wanted to be a role model and tell kids, you know, you can make it. Kind of like Frank. So, but thank you so much for acknowledging this. And, you know, this didn't come around until Lyndon Baines Johnson was president, and it was in 1968 that he pushed to have this, you know, to have Hispanic heritage observed. But it was only for 1 week. 20 years later, President Ronald Reagan came and said, well, we're going to expand it to a month. So, which I think was great. So with that, again, I'd like to thank all of you, and I'm honored to be the representative accepting this proclamation. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, Gloria referred to Frank, and Frank this past week was honored by the Latino Business Alliance and the Santa Clarita Valley Chamber of Commerce as the Community Leader of the Year, Frank Oviedo.
Mayor Pro Tem Gibbs, you have the German American Heritage Month proclamation.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Tonight, the city would like to honor and recognize our residents of German American heritage and spotlight those who have helped build the United States into the wonderful nation that it is today. As you may know, German immigrants established Germantown, an area that is now part of Philadelphia nearly 340 years ago. Germantown has played an important role in the growth of our country. In addition to being the birthplace of the American anti-slavery movement, it was also the one-time residence of our nation's first president, George Washington, and the location of the first bank of the United States. Since the time of Germantown's founding, German Americans have been at the forefront of developments in art, architecture, entertainment, and science. These proud Americans have built cities, museums, playhouses, and bridges, and also designed the United States Capitol building. German Americans have fought and died for our country. They have educated future generations and helped advance medicine and treatments for the sick and the injured. Today, there are more than 40 million Americans who claim German heritage, making it our country's largest ancestry group. Each year in October, these proud Americans honor their German heritage and culture with events and festivals throughout the country. The city celebrates and supports the contribution of German Americans in our community. And so, the City of Santa Clarita hereby proclaims the month of October 2022 as German American Heritage Month. I would like to invite Professor Heidi Esslinger and Steve Petzel to the dais to accept this proclamation. Are we giving Steve a mic?
No,
What do you mean, no?
you don't want the mic.
No, if you gave Gloria a mic, you gotta give me a mic.
Steve, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. We're just
Now
teasing.
we'll give you a mic. Let's take our picture first. Hi, Maria. All right, we're going to take our picture first. There we go. You have to smile first for the picture, and then you get to talk.
Here you go, there's the proclamation.
All right, here we go.
Ready, 1, 2, 3. You got the wide angle on that thing?
Okay, let me get your microphone.
Okay. Is this on? Okay, I practiced all day, so I have to ask all of you to stehen Sie bitte auf. Stand up.
Stehen Sie bitte auf! Ja.
Oh, stand up.
We're going to say I will say the pledge in German. Ich schwöre Treue auf die Fahne der Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika und die Republik, für die sie steht. Eine Nation unter Gott und teilbar mit Freiheit und Gerechtigkeit für jeden. Dankeschön. Thank you. So I just want to introduce the people up here. First of all, we have Heidi Esslinger. She is the German professor at College of the Canyons.
And I want to take this chance to say thank you to the members of the City Council here, all of them, for honoring German American Heritage Month this year again. This is actually extremely appreciated. It also, and the City of Santa Clarita, not just the members of the council. I want to thank the whole city for doing this. This is very much appreciated. It also helps to keep the German program at College of the Canyons alive. And actually, this is why I brought a big part of, or some part of my current German 101 class along, so that they can also see their local government in action. And of course, it then makes me extremely happy when the local government honors our common heritage. I want to also use this to invite every one of you, if you are interested in anything German, there will be 2 movies in the German language with English subtitles shown at the college, the Valencia campus. They have a very nice little movie theater, very well equipped and comfy. And on October 21st, that's a Friday at 6 p.m., I will be presenting the movie Und morgen die ganze Welt. And tomorrow, the entire world. That kind of references back to the 1920s and gets then to the troublesome 2020s. And after you watch that movie with me, it's not too long, you would like to have a discussion, and I'll be there for you then. And I'm also very happy to report that my colleague from the history department, Brent Riffle, will be showing maybe the best movie of the 80s, and that is Himmel über Berlin, or Wings of Desire. And it won everything a movie can win. If you've already seen the movie, still come and enjoy it on a big screen, and you will be getting the historical aspect of it. And this will be on November 4th. Also at 6 p.m., that's another Friday, and all of you are welcome. If you have any questions concerning German in any way, shape, or form, please get in touch with me through the city, or you look at the Modern Languages Department. I'm the only Heidi teaching German there. I'll answer all my emails, and I would love to see you there. And I'm also thanking all of you guys again. Thank you so much for doing all of this.
Thank you. Many of you are familiar with Maria Gutzeit. Maria Gutzeit owns a local business here, as well as her husband, SCV German Auto Service. So I will turn it over here to Maria real quick.
Thank you. And just real quickly, Steve and I have bonded over what Germans are very well known for, which is our Christmas traditions and our Christmas goodies. But in all seriousness, also, my father immigrated from Germany, as did my husband's father, so we were first generation German Americans, and I appreciated the city's reference to, the mix that is in our city that makes our city great and our country great. The most apropos thing I think to mention now is the war in Ukraine. My father emigrated when the house that he was living in was bombed during the war. His family had to flee to the countryside, and he was one of the lucky people that got to come to the United States. But half of his family was trapped behind the Berlin Wall, and the other half was on the east side of Germany and half was on the west. And he told us stories of people that died trying to cross that divide. And I think the German history is important to remember, and including the things that we don't know. And now we see it happening again when communities have to flee war. And it is important to remember all of our history and welcome all of our immigrants. So I'm very excited that the city did this recognition, and thanks, Steve, for inviting me tonight.
Thank you. And if I might just take one moment before you take the mic away from me. The owner from Lucky Luke was supposed to be here tonight, but unfortunately one of his trucks broke down, so he had to go out on the road. So there will be an Oktoberfest on October 8th at the Lucky Luke's, which is the old Wolf Creek over in the Industrial Center. So he did send me a statement. I will put it into the record, but I did want to thank him for keeping Oktoberfest here in Santa Clarita. Pocock also had an Oktoberfest in September. So I thank all of you, and drink responsibly. I thank all of you, and I will return control to the mayor.
We thank all of you for coming up. Good to see you again, Maria.
Thank you.
Be put into the record.
Hand it to the clerk. Give it to Mary. Okay, well, we'll now go to Councilwoman McLean, and she will do our 2022 Achievement of Excellence Procurement Award.
Thank you. It is my pleasure. Tonight, the city would like to honor staff from Information Services for the recent recognition of their procurement practices by a prestigious national organization. The city received an Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award for 2022 from the National Procurement Institute, which marks the 12th time that Santa Clarita has earned this esteemed honor. The AEP award is given to public and nonprofit agencies that demonstrate a commitment to procurement excellence. Organizations are scored based on their innovation, professionalism, productivity, leadership, and e-procurement practices. The goal of the award program is to measure and provide benchmarks for public procurement best practices. It is my pleasure to announce as well that the City of Santa Clarita is one of just 171 public agencies and one of only 73 cities across the United States and Canada to receive this honor. The award demonstrates the city's commitment to professional, transparent, and responsible purchasing policies and procedures. Please join me in welcoming members of the city's Information Services Division to the dais for a photo.
Thank you. All right, which one of you is going to hold? All right.
Ready, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Want to say anything? Okay. Thank you all very much. You make us proud. Make us proud. That's an incredibly coveted award, I can tell you. So we're very lucky to have that. I will now do the Southern California Edison update on our expedited grid hardening plan. Bill and I met with Edison, what, a year ago, Bill? Maybe? Bill? We met with Edison.
I'm sorry.
We met with Edison about a year ago to go over all this, and they are working so fast. It's just wonderful. Throughout the course of their ongoing project to harden the electrical grid in Santa Clarita, Southern California Edison representatives have presented at our city council meetings and discussed wildfire mitigation strategies and infrastructure improvements with the public. Since the last update, Edison has continued to make progress on its plans to harden the electrical grid infrastructure throughout our Santa Clarita Valley and to strengthen reliability and service. So at this time, I'd like to invite up Rochelle Silsby and Conrad Renato with Southern California Edison to provide an update on Edison's expedited grid hardening plan in Santa Clarita.
Good evening, Mayor West, Mayor Pro Tem Gibbs, and honorable council members. Thank you for allowing us just a few short minutes of your time tonight to provide a very brief update on our wildfire mitigation and expedited grid hardening improvements in the city of Santa Clarita. We really appreciate the hard work that this city council and this city staff has done to keep this one of the best cities truly to live, work, and play in. As a resident since I was my son's age, which is 8 years old, I've really appreciated the tremendous growth that the city has achieved in the time that I have lived here, and it's been my honor to hopefully continue to contribute to the betterment of our city here. So, and as such, we absolutely recognize how important it is for us to have safe, reliable, and efficient utility services for our customers and our community members. To that end, I'm just going to show a quick few updates here, if we could get the next slide, about how we've performed, what our goals are relative to the really two urgent priorities that we've been seeing here in the city, which is addressing reliability and protecting against the threat of extreme weather here in the city. And as many of you are aware, we combat this through not just a single approach, but multiple approaches in a service area encompassing approximately 50,000 square miles across our service area and serving approximately 15 million residents. You'll note in that map there of our service area that just shy of a third of our service area is in higher fire areas. Get the next slide, please. So this image here is just sort of an idea of the fact that we're not taking one single-minded approach to wildfire mitigation, with now a multitude of tools available to that have been developed over a period of time with a systematic and data-driven approach. We've really focused on mitigating the threat of wildfire in our communities through some of the examples you'll see here are vegetation management, our aerial inspections, weather monitoring, which are now enhanced through the utilization of machine learning now, aerial fire suppression, which I'll touch on just really briefly later, and grid hardening, which is really sort of the cornerstone of our wildfire mitigation strategy due to its cost effectiveness, its speed of deployment, and its effectiveness. And of course, as a measure of last resort, PSPS. So if we can move to the next slide. I think you'll notice that, obviously some of these tools were, like as I mentioned, were not available in previous years. But to that end, to date, approximately 30% of overhead wires in our high wildfire areas have now been covered with what we call covered conductor. So we estimate that the reduction in the risk of catastrophic wildfire relative to our pre-2018 levels is now reduced by 65 to 70% just since pre-2018. What that's resulted in the entire system is a 73% reduction in PSPS outage time in 2021. And again, that's system-wide. If we can move to the next slide. So this is really a closer look at the city of Santa Clarita, really specifically. So the top table there, you'll see, as I kind of mentioned, that there's a 73% reduction in our overall service territory in terms of customer minutes of interruption. In city of Santa Clarita, that number is actually 98%. So I think what we're finding is that the plan that we've put together in terms of wildfire mitigation, the hard work of our field crews, and the collaboration that we've had with the city in terms of being able to complete the amount of work that we have has really netted the results last year, and we hope to continue to see similar results in the future. Again, with the advent, the implementation, and the collaboration of all of these strategies sort of put together. So this is a map, as I think you're all familiar with, the city of Santa Clarita there, and that sort of V-shaped area. And the black areas are the areas of the circuits that we've already completed. You'll probably note when I kind of discuss this a little bit later that most of the circuits and those colored portions should also be black as well, meaning that we've completed a vast majority of even the work that we planned for 2022 already. So a vast amount of work has gone into it, not with a small amount of collaboration, again, with the city. So we thank you for your patience and your support there. You'll notice that there's approximately 7 circuits that we had slated for completion in 2022, and we are well on our way there as we're closing in on the end of the year. So this is our results, sort of what we completed in 2021 and sort of a year-to-date status of where we are in 2022. Last year, we completed 53 miles of insulated wire. We installed 5 sectionalizing devices, 1 weather station, and we completely removed 4 circuits and 2 circuit segments from PSPS consideration altogether. And then we also raised the PSPS wind threshold on 2 circuits. This year, we are 95% complete on our strategy and our plan to insulate 26 miles of covered and to install covered conductor, to install 1 weather station, and to raise the wind speed threshold on 1 circuit. So the inspected improvements, I showed a similar slide last year as well, of the 7 circuits that we showed as sort of the colored circuits on that first map there. This is what we expect to see in terms of the expected improvements. Basically, we expect to see a 98% reduction in customer outage time. The gray bars you'll note are actually 2020, 21 numbers because we really didn't have those customer minutes of interruption last year due to PSPS. So really, we're just hoping to continue the improvements that we've started and to continue building on that model. And as I alluded to earlier in sort of the pictorial that I showed is, and I thought was sort of a important example, particularly in light of recent events in and around the city of Santa Clarita, is, partnering with our local fire agencies is something that we're very honored to be able to be a part of. We have contributed $18 million to support the creation of a quick reaction force of aerial firefighting assets in our service area with the world's largest helitankers. So in 2021, these aerial assets were used on more than 50 fires and saw 433 hours of flight time with 1,836 total drops, of which 493 are night. And I think you'll find that is sort of a unique ability that these helitankers have. And again, we're just very honored to be able to support that effort. And again, this is part of our broader wildfire mitigation strategy. So this next slide is bringing it even a little bit closer to home, which I'm sure we'll all remember the route fire that just happened. The image on the left, and this is, courtesy of the Orange County Fire Authority, was an image of the route fire as it began on August 31st at approximately, I think it's, 1,100 hours. And then the image on the right is sort of a great picture of the night vision of our asset, of those helitankers being able to operate in the evening, in the dark hours where, not other assets would not necessarily be available. And then at 800 hours the next day, on September 1st, the retardant line objective was met, and dozer and hand line construction completed at 800 hours on the same day. So again, just a quick snapshot of what we're able to achieve. And I would be remiss if I didn't make a quick plug to please try and encourage everyone to, partner and help us get the word out for anyone with access and functional needs to please contact 211 and help make sure that our residents stay safe and that they have access to be prepared in the case of any emergency, really, so that, we here at SCE are aware of those customers and are aware of any needs that they might have, so we can proactively address any type of, a backup battery that they might need, or, have discounts to portable generators or whatnot in the case of any type of emergency. And then last but not least, it's how to reach us. So we are available and happy to help. Our website's sce.com/wildfire, particularly to this issue. There you can get access to a variety of the topics that I covered today, including information about circuits, and our phone number as well. And I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Any questions in the council?
And also, I did want to introduce Conrad Reynado, and he's our new district manager for Valencia. His area that he covers represents the entire Santa Clarita Valley, and he's been a wonderful partner to work with. Thank you, Conrad.
Well, we want to thank both of you for coming. Is there any questions, Rochelle?
No questions. I just want to say thank you very much. It's very informative, and I think people are very concerned about wildfires these days, and to know that you're actually doing something to help is really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
I just want to say you have been fulfilling everything that everyone from the company promised they would do, and I know that we all feel better about the hardening project and the information, and you get the alerts out there, and it's just really been a good learning curve for all of us. So we thank you for the work that's being done and appreciate it, and the update is much appreciated also.
Absolutely.
So, Mayor, if I may, we had a somewhat contentious meeting a year or so ago. Mayor and I were there. But the good news is you have, your company has successfully completed everything that we asked for. And you should be congratulated for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think, we obviously saw a need. There's the weather has changed. We're adapting to the changing climate that we're observing today. and we will continue to try to meet our, future goals of sustainability in the most economically efficient and sustainable way possible. So thank you so much.
Thank you both for coming. Appreciate that very much. All right, then we will, that concludes our presentations on our awards. We'll now move on to public participation. And we'll start with Tony Maldonado, and Tony will be followed by Elaine Ballas, followed by James Doyle. And as you hear your name called, please come up the front row and get ready to speak. Much appreciated. Hello again, Tony.
Hello again. I believe you all know who I am, but for the record, my name is Tony Maldonado. Tonight, you all will be very surprised that I'm not speaking on a specific city issue, but instead about something that brought and gave me concern as I was perusing some case studies on failed California cities and how ethics and the lack thereof brought their downfall. Mind you, for the record, I have full and complete confidence in our city council, city manager's office, city clerk, and our city government in general. So please don't believe I'm inferring or insinuating to anyone that our city government has had or has any issues similar to those in the case studies that I read. However, of particular concern, whilst reviewing the case studies of the cities of Bell, Compton, Fresno, and Industry, one clear theme was constant: ethics, and the lack of principled city employees willing to stand up to the local government while they witness malfeasance, wrongdoing, tampering with the hiring process, or other violations of ethics and their city's respective codes of conduct. So I have to ask, how robust is our employee whistleblower program, if we have one at all? It seems that although each city's government's demise and downfall were due to a variety of ethical violations and egregious acts, the question of how and why employees at all levels of these cities didn't blow the whistle early on to avoid the catastrophic events that eventually ensued was greatly highlighted in all these case studies. Rather than being strong civil servants, in which they should have reported violations of ethic rules and misconduct, most, if not all, employees of the cities of Bell, Compton, Fresno, and Industry remained silent on all the misdeeds, and only some spoke out when it was far too late for corrective measures to have been taken. Again, remember, I love this city, and it's very important to me that we continue in that direction of being a great city. But that brought me to think of our city, and if we're well equipped to support effective reporting of events that could bring disrepute to our city. To be honest, I don't know how well equipped we are in that regard. For example, I have looked at the city personnel's rules and policies against harassment, discrimination, and bullying, but outside of a few cursory mentions on how employees should proceed to report any misdeeds, much of the language appears punitive and very discouraging, as it puts a lot of the onus and the burden of proof on a person making the report, including discouraging anonymous reporting, which could heavily decrease proactive and effective whistleblowing. So I would like to ask if the city has a fixed whistleblower policy in place that is conspicuously published and gives better direction to employees and the general public to encourage positive whistleblowing so that we can have a truly effective, transparent government. Again, for the record, this is just a needed query that I have, as I have full and complete confidence in our city council, our city manager's office, city clerk, and our city government in general. I'm not insinuating or inferring anything negative upon us. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Tony. Elaine Ballas.
Well, too bad the Edison people left. I want to know how much, no, seriously, how much extra energy all these Teslas that I see up here are using on the grid. Nothing was addressed to that. So there are a lot of Tesla, there's even over near Scoey and all that, where they have a whole Tesla thing. So that's using energy from the grid. The other thing I'd like to talk about is, or ask, is how the grants are given to 501(c)(3)s, because there are many 501(c)(3)s up here that I feel are ripping people off. And one of them is the Santa Clarita Grocery. When they first started, they asked for a $5 donation, or recently this year anyway. When I first went there, they asked for a $5 donation. And then after a couple weeks, they increased it to $10. And that's if you wanted eggs and milk. Now, I know for a fact that the food is donated. The people who are there are volunteers. So what are we doing? And if they have grants for 501(c)(3)s, how are the grants determined, and who gives the money to them or allots the allocations of funds? Because I don't see where the city is doing anything. At the debate last week, one of the people said that Amazon went from, she got 30, it went from 30 to 300 workers up here. Well, Amazon owns Whole Foods. Whole Foods does donate, because they donate in the Valley, they donate in Beverly Hills, they donate everywhere. Why can't Amazon help donate food to people? Gas went up between 50 cents and $1 a gallon. Food has gone up almost double to triple. There are people who are in need, not necessarily homeless, but on the verge of being homeless, and they need help, and there are no resources. The Salvation Army gives canned vegetables and fruit and maybe macaroni or some pasta, and that's it. I mean, Bill Miranda, you're always saying how much Santa Claritans help one another. I think this is a real cry for help for people. They really, really need help, and I think things need to be opened up. There are businesses here that are involved and can help, including Trader Joe's. And I also think the Go Bus should be extended, and public transportation should be extended, because people cannot get around past 8 o'clock, and a lot of people go to different meetings. So it would really help with gas going up overnight. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Elaine. James Doyle.
Good evening. My name is James Doyle. I'm a resident of Canyon Country, a current Master of Library and Information Science grad student, and a recent former employee of the City of Santa Clarita, where for 4 years I served the public as a library aide, a passport agent, and essentially an all but title and paid. On a daily basis, I performed the duties of a librarian in collaboration with other coworkers. I hold public sector's roles in high esteem, and I take to heart the city's philosophy statement. We value ethics. We believe the soundest basis for judging the rightness of an action is a test of its morality, legality, and its effect on human rights. We treat our fellow employees and community members fairly and equally without prejudice or bias. However, that's not true, because for over a month, the city has ignored my formal complaint of ethics violations and capricious abuses of discretion, with no one reaching out to me to discuss this in further depth. Further, I have been repeatedly told that the city only hires the most qualified workers based on a system of meritocracy. Again, that is not true, as I have documentary proof that many underqualified individuals gain city employment and advancement opportunities, usually due to favoritism and cronyism, over individuals with far more work and educational experience. This includes myself, where I have been repeatedly denied advancement within the library, despite having higher levels of education and experience than some of these offered employment. And I've always been offered the same generic general statements that more qualified individuals were found, only to later discover these were blatant lies. Is this the city's definition of meritocracy, or the blatant and egregious whims of a few incompetent and or corrupt decision makers who do not care to follow the city policy or the law? I know I'm not the only one who feels this way, and that another former city employee recently filed a formal complaint regarding bullying and ethical violations against city policies. So is the city truly investigating our complaints? Because the city has not contacted either of us to discuss this in further detail. If duty of care against corruption is your stance, then it's in the city's best interest to investigate these ethical violations thoroughly before they spread further and make a mockery of public trust. So again, will the city investigate our formal complaints, or shall we have to escalate matters further? Thank you very much.
Our next speaker will be Nancy. Nancy will be followed by Cindy Jostin, and then Ellen Ferdman.
Good evening, council members, city manager, and staff. I'd like to thank you for the Parent Resource Symposium, Chasing the High. It was very informative, especially for us parents with children in school. It was nice seeing Councilmember McLean. I appreciate your attendance. Mayor West, the sheriff deputy did confirm fentanyl comes from China and is smuggled through the southern border of Mexico. When you stated this a couple weeks ago, Santa Clarita City Council candidate called your statement racist. I'd like to state for the record that it was not a racist statement. It was a confirmed fact. It can be dangerous when people try to silence us from stating facts by calling us racist. This action can cost lives, especially children's lives. This is why it is important for people to know who they are voting for and whom we put in office. It appears our community is at a crossroad. As stated in Ephesians 6:12-13, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, and against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. We are in a spiritual battle, and it's time for us to choose a side, and I choose God, because Santa Clarita and California is God's land, and America is God's country. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And our next speaker is Cindy Jostin.
Good evening, Mayor West, Council, and Sheriff's Department. Thank you for putting on the Chasing of the High event. It hit home to me because a couple of years ago I found my brother dead of an accidental overdose. I hope more eyes are opened on this and see what's happening, especially the gentleman running for city council whose priority is white supremacy and defunding our law enforcement. As Mayor West mentioned, Santa Clarita we have been listed as one of the safest cities. However, the last couple of years have been a challenge to keep it that way. Between Chasing the High, and the candidate event, we can all agree that school safety, drugs, mental illness, and homelessness are our main concerns. It has been stated by the Sheriff's Department, our concerns have been escalated in the past couple years, from 2018 to present. Our children have been locked down, losing years of real education, but taught hate, division, and can be 458 genders, and transgender is normal at an early age, and if they do not agree, they are shamed and bullied. Many became confused and depressed and turned to drugs and or suicide. But yet we wonder why mental illness has spiked. When asked at the Chasing the High event where the drugs have been coming from, Sergeant Diego Andrade answered, they're coming from China and then through the open borders. Another concern mentioned is homelessness. 2.1 million people have come, that we know of, have come across the border this year. Where are these people going to live and who's going to provide for them? As we Americans, we cannot take care of ourselves right now. I have covered safety, drugs, mental illness, and homelessness. What do they all have in common? A failed administration and open borders. Last meetings, I provided facts showing criminals and drugs were coming in through our open borders, and for that, our safety is at risk. I was called a hateful racist. I'm not a hateful racist, but I'm a concerned, God-loving American who honors our flag, freedom, and my God-given right to my freedom of speech. I do understand that this is a spiritual battle that we are in. To the President Council, I realize that you can't close the borders, but as you see the destructive path that we are going down, I need you to stand up, fight harder, and be more proactive in order to keep what you have accomplished, which is a safe place for all of us to live. And for the rest of us, we need to wake up, get out and vote. We need to vote for the people that we trust, that will fight to preserve a safe and healthy future for all of us, but mostly our children. Thank you.
Alan Ferdman. Alan will be followed by Jeffrey Malik, and then Santa Rivera.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Alan Ferdman, and I'm up here again to express my disappointment with all 5 of you who don't seem to want to do anything about the Diversity Roundtable. You know, I moved out here in Santa Clarita in 1965, and I certainly have watched my neighborhood grow. Our Latino community has gotten larger, and our mix has changed drastically. But then in 2014, when I ran for city council, I started looking to see exactly what our makeup of our community was, and I was very happily came upon the realization that we had a large Korean, Sikh, Filipino, and Islamic community as well as among others. Today, diversity continues to grow with a larger black community taking up residence here in Santa Clarita. And I appreciate that a lot since my children's godparents were black. And the first time I invited them out here, they wanted to know if it was okay to come into our neighborhood. And I thought that was absolutely absurd. So I think that it's important. The roundtable is important to spread things about individuals that we can look up to in the way that they have dealt with diversity, and they have helped us eliminate racism around the country. And if you're not going to do it, we're going to start doing it at the Canyon Country Advisory Committee. So I'm going to kick this off tomorrow night. Every month I look for something that somebody did that I thought was extremely noteworthy. And this month I'm going to start it off with 2 young gentlemen on their first day in grammar school. And it turns out that there was a little white kid, and the white kid was a special needs child and was devastated by starting school and crying. And then in this picture you'll see a little black gentleman who took his hand to calm him. And I thought that's the kind of thing we need to show. One of the other things, the lessons continue coming. One of the other things that happened was I started discussing some music things with a friend of mine. And I mentioned the movie Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll. I don't know how many of you have ever seen it, but it's a really great movie about Buddy Holly's life. Not Buddy Holly, but Chuck Berry's life. And in this film, I said I got to look at it again. But I couldn't find my VCR tape, so I ordered a new one. And in the upgraded version, it comes with another disc. And in that other disc, it includes a lot of the dialogue that Chuck Berry and Little Richard had about the adversities they went through in the music business. And the thing that so impressed me about it was because they acted in a way that showed, instead of being bitter.
Alan, your time's up.
I will. Instead of being bitter, they showed that it was the way to deal with adversity.
Thank you, Alan.
So, Shana Tova, Mr. Smythe, and I'm hoping that now you champion a Jewish Heritage Month.
Jeffrey Malik.
Hi, everyone. I wasn't going to talk about this, so I will try to split my time here, seeing how I keep being mentioned again. My name is Jeffrey Malik. I am the candidate that they're talking about. And let me just be very clear. The fentanyl crisis here is horrible, and could we please stop making it a political thing? I came here to the Chasing the High event. I talked to every resource that was here. I talked to every organization that was here. I stayed. I watched the very powerful video that all the council members have been saying that everybody should watch. I cried myself, and everybody should really watch that. I've been, if you don't believe me, you can go to my website. I even created all the pamphlets. I think I took 40 pictures of all the resources, and I put it on my website. So if we could please stop talking about that. Yes, I get that it comes from China, it's over the borders in Mexico, but it's here now, and we all need to work together in unity to fix the problem now. Thank you. So, now to move on what I was going to talk about. Mr. Striplin, you probably know what I'm going to talk about. I've been following up with you in email. the community is becoming very concerned about the new homeless shelter that is apparently being built. I sent an email trying to follow up to, one, get a PDF sent of the plans, as well as follow up on the escalation. It's been being escalated now for a few months. At the last meeting, Mayor West escalated it to you, asking what was going on. So not only on behalf of me, on behalf of the community, I know you said that you responded yesterday that it would take you to the end of the week to respond, but I think the community really would like to know, as of today, what's going on, what's the timeline, what can they look, because as we look at that timeline, can we look to other resources? I think the YMCA here is not being used. Can we use that? What can we do? Can we work with the senior centers and other things that the homeless community needs right now? We kind of need to know what's going on with that timeline of the shelter, because I don't know what else to tell you. Like, escalation means escalation. If there was nothing done in the past 2 weeks, no movement whatsoever, then I really question the morals behind it. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Santa Rivera, and Santa will be followed by Steve Petzold, and that will be our last speaker.
Good evening, everyone. Hello. I wanted to reach out to parents tonight and just remind them that we're in a point where things are happening around us. Laws, rules are being passed regarding our children, and if we can't build our strong relationship with them, I think the outside influence can have a stronger hold if we don't try to nip that in the bud and just be a little bit more involved. Even if you already are, just be just a little bit more involved. Quería decir a los padres ahí que están escuchando, para los niños, es bien importante porque ahorita lo que está pasando en nuestra ciudad, en este mundo, están tratando de ir atrás de nuestros hijos. Hay muchas reglas, hay muchas cosas que están pasando que los hijos a lo mejor no nos pueden decir o no nos dicen, y nosotros tenemos que poner más atención en lo que están haciendo. Si usted es un padre que ya pone mucha atención a su hijo, échale otro poquito más, porque lo que yo estoy aprendiendo es que niños tan chiquitos de 12 años pueden decirles a los maestros algo en la escuela y no les tienen que decir a los padres. Esto es algo que uno tiene que asegurarse que no tienen influencia las otras personas de sus hijos. Hablen con ellos, sea lo que sea. Next, I wanted to talk about, we were doing the SCE, the Edison, and all of the wildfires discussion. I have brought it up a couple of times. Maybe we can speak to them about getting some goats that can eat some of that brush in between. It might help save on some of the gas and water that we use for those helicopters. I'm not knocking them down. We need them, but I'm saying to help in a preventative way. So I'd like to suggest that and bring that to the table. I would also like to suggest, when I lived in Washington, and I think I've mentioned this before a long time ago, when there's fire trucks or there's ambulances going through the intersection, there's on two corners of the intersection, there's two lights that light up. That was up in Washington State, and it makes it a lot easier for people coming up to that intersection to know that there's some type of emergency vehicle trying to pass by. I also wanted to add that I agree that we need to pay attention to who we're voting for. Go out there, meet them, listen to what they have to say. You know, we need to be more active in what's going on in our society, and the people that are having the opportunity to change what is happening, the opportunity to be our voice, and the opportunity to bridge the gap that's between what we consider tyrant government and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Santa. Steve Petzold?
Yes, Mayor West. I also wanted to, it's unfortunate the representatives from SCE decided to depart the building. I just had a bill for $475 for my electricity. That is the highest bill I have ever had in the city of Santa Clarita. So I went through it, and there's a surcharge for wildfire mitigation. We are the people that are paying for them to mitigate for these fires. I mean, it would have been nice of them to at least congratulate the taxpayers for funding them to stop wildfires in the areas where they're creating fires. Are they here? Well, can you address that question? I also want to come back to you about Measure E at College of the Canyons. I am asking that the Legislative Committee of the City Council oppose the issuance of the last $95 million that will increase the taxes for everybody, every property tax owner in this city. If you live long enough, it was 6 years ago that I opposed Measure E. And I said they would break the $15 per $1,000 assessed valuation that they promised in that. They are ready to go right through that. They approved the issuance of the bonds. It would be nice if you at least stood up and said, we will protect the taxpayers in this community. We will address those people. They're issuing $95 million in a high interest rate environment. They are literally capitalizing the interest. They're issuing a premium rate so that they can get the interest for 2 years that we are going to pay back over 25 and a half years. These people are absolutely crazy at College of the Canyons. They are issuing tax-exempt bonds and taxable bonds. Honest to God, they have no concern for the taxpayers in the Santa Clarita Community College District. So I would ask you to call a special meeting at your legislative committee so that you can issue a statement on behalf of the people that are suffering out here in the community. You know, honest to God, how can anybody go to any campus at College of the Canyons and say that these people need more money? $95 million? I've been vindicated. I was abused by the chancellor at College of the Canyons, and by God, 6 years later, I am vindicated.
Thank you, Steve. That concludes our public participation. And we now have staff comments. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. In regards to the whistleblowing rules and policies, the city's ethics policy governs both the conduct of the City Council as well as city staff. And there's extensive reporting options within that policy that are both internal through my office as well as other agencies that are available to report to. The California Whistleblower Protection Act also allows the state to receive and file complaints with other agencies, which is contained in the Labor Code. So we also have a harassment policy and a retaliation policy that provides both confidentiality as well as a inability to retaliate against those who provide those claims, and that is administered through, once again, our personnel rules. As it relates to Mr. Doyle's question, what we investigate all matters that come to our attention that fall within those categories. So I believe Mr. Doyle is well aware that we are investigating, and it's personnel issues. So that's the extent to which I will comment on that. The last one, in terms of Mr. Malik did send me an email. The vast majority of what Mr. Malik asked me for was not information that's really the city's. It's Bridge to Home. So I am collecting the information from Bridge to Home to provide him both the PDF of the design as well as information on the schedule. I'm not sure I understand his term escalation. If he's referring to how we are expediting the process, we have sent a letter from the mayor to Bridge to Home asking for them to expedite that as quickly as possible and seeing if there's any assistance that we can provide as a city to do so. We have not received a response to date. I believe that Bridge to Home's plans are to begin construction within the next month or so, and the last thing I heard was their completion date is October of next year. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken. I was intrigued by the lights that light up at intersections, letting you know that emergency vehicles are coming. I see jam-ups all the time where literally everything stops, nobody has to move, people don't realize something's coming. And we have big intersections. So it'd be nice if we could find out if that's possibly useful for us in this city, just to give our residents a little bit more time to get prepared for emergency vehicles that are coming their way.
I agree.
Yeah. A little research can't hurt. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. We will now move to committee reports. Let me start with Bill. Is that okay, Bill?
Sure.
Bill's ready.
(2022) Grab your hiking shoes and get outside. The City of Santa Clarita is excited to announce the 2022 Hiking Challenge. Residents are invited to hike all 7 trails at our local East Walker Ranch open space. Bring your family and friends and enjoy our beautiful rolling mountains and pristine landscapes in Newhall. Joining is easy and free. Download the hike checklist from city.sc/eastwalker and hike all 7 trails from September 22nd, hard to do on September 27th, but until December 31st. The first 50 participants will receive a prize, and all participants be entered to win a grand prize. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Bill. Jason?
Mayor, I have no comments tonight. Thank you.
All right, Cameron? Cameron, no. Marcia? To you, really quick.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I would like to thank our local Blue Star Moms chapter for facilitating Sunday's Traveling Fallen Warriors exhibit. We were all there, and it was very emotional to hear some of the stories about the parents who have lost their sons and daughters. So I happen to be a Blue Star mom, and I know that when my son was in Iraq flying helicopters, it was devastating every single day, not knowing whether he was coming back or not. Happily, he did come back, but many didn't. So I want to thank our Blue Star moms. I know they saved me during that time, and they continue to do so. I was at the drug symposium, and once again, very, very emotional to sit and watch the film showing parents who went into the bedroom to wake up their kids, and their kids were dead because of fentanyl. It's an epidemic out here and elsewhere, and we need to continue to do something about it. And then a fun thing, we have a new theatrical group in town. It's called the Olive Branch Theatricals. They had a ribbon cutting the other day for their rehearsal space, which is at the mall behind the Soledad Mexican restaurant. So if you're interested in a local theatrical group, pay them a visit. I think you will truly enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just wanted to just recant. I thought that the event for Chasing the High was very educational, very well attended, very emotional, and I thank all the staff and all of our sheriffs and our experts. And I'm going to repeat one more time, fentanyl doesn't give you the time to treat it. It just kills you, and it only takes a couple grains. And it's happening everywhere. I have 2 very close friends that have both lost their only child to fentanyl. And there is nothing, you can't come back from it. There's nothing you could have done. You didn't know. And most of our youth that get anything on an iPhone, and they have no idea that it's in there. They have no idea what they're taking. So I just want to say that we need to remain focused on this. We need to get our young people and teens telling each other the dangers. We need to get the kids alerting the kids. If we could get enough of it out there to them, they're not stupid. They just don't know yet. And most people, well, how do you spell that? What is it? Where is it? Well, they're putting it in everything, all kinds of things. It's all dangerous. It's all bad, and we really need to get this out there so that we don't have people uninformed, and we don't have kids being killed by poison. It is not a drug. It is poison. You get it on your skin, you can just die. It's just poison. It goes right into your body. It compresses your lungs. You can't breathe. So, all right, enough. I had a wonderful time seeing the incredible Hispanic Heritage Celebration, and Frank It was wonderful to be there and see you honored. It was very special. And that is such a beautiful place to do that. I did the bridging ceremony with a brand new Girl Scout troop, 582. They did their first bridging ceremony, and they were just amazing. So congratulations, 582. And they promised me they would be in the parade this next year. So I told them if they showed up, I'll walk with them. That's a 2-mile walk. What did I do? But they're wonderful kids, so we'll do that. If you have the time the next day or so, get over to the mall and see the fallen soldiers display at the mall, honoring the almost, 780 military personnel that have died from California since 9/11. And it is beautifully done, and there was a lot of people that shared their different experiences, and I was very privileged to be there. We have, I'm looking for it. No, it's here. Not there. Sorry about that. I'm going to do my adjournment tonight. This is a very, you have to excuse me, I have the worst allergy from the sage that is growing all over the place, and I can't help it. I've got an allergy, so thank you for putting up with that. There was a young man who I'd like to adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of, and his name was Jose Sanchez. He was a man who embodied the ideals of friendship, kindness, and dedication. Sadly, we lost Jose earlier this month. If you have ever eaten at the way station in Old Town Newhall in the last 48 years, chances are really high that you know exactly who Jose was and what he meant to so many generations of families in Santa Clarita. Jose was born in 1954 in Jalisco, Mexico, and he was one of 6 children. When he was young, his family moved north to the Santa Clarita Valley. And one day in 1974, Jose was rummaging through the trash bins behind the way station back in the alley when the owner, Stanley Brunstrap, found him and offered him a job. Once he started, he didn't stop. He never stopped. And for more than 4.5 decades, Jose was known for his friendly attitude and his ability to make other people smile, particularly when they would come into the way station for a bite to eat. Over the years, he showed his generosity to others, just as he's received when he was a young man. Much of Jose's family worked and continues to work at the way station, helping those new to the community find jobs to help establish themselves in the area. Late in his life, Jose studied hard for, and he passed the United States citizenship test, and he was extremely proud to become a citizen of the country that had done so much for him and his family. I know our entire community will miss Jose, and our thoughts are with his family and friends at this time. I got to know Jose over the years very well. He was always polite, and he was kind. And the Way Station Cafe is as much of an icon in Newhall as the Saugus Cafe is in LA County. And he was just, I can't tell you, he just smiled all the time. He was just kind. He was a loving person. And I really enjoyed talking to him. And he always was there to help you, whatever he could do. So I heard a few people wanting to have the city honor him some way. He was the very fabric of Old Town Newhall. So I pulled up a photo. It's a very famous painting that's the diner. It's a picture of a diner with Marilyn Monroe in it, and James Dean, and Elvis Presley, and Humphrey Bogart. And it's a very famous picture. Everybody knows it's iconic art. On the side of this, and I did mention this to the city manager, so I'm not in any trouble here. On the side of the cafe wall is a framed-in stucco part of the building. And I thought what would be lovely, and I'm glad to go help fundraise for it, would it be a picture of the inside of the cafe with Jose in the corner and him serving the icons of the movie industry that are so famous for Santa Clarita. And there's so many. I mean, we can pick it from Bill Hart to Clark Gable to John Wayne. They were all here. And then we would dedicate the painting to Jose. And then Jose would always be with us in the cafe, outside the cafe. And I think he's the kind of person, he was just a simple man. He didn't come for anything special. He didn't get great accolades. He was just there. He was nice. He was kind. He was always with us. He just became part of our life. And I'd like to acknowledge that. And I'm sure the council can weigh in. So everybody's saying yes. And I'm glad to work on it. We have an historic artist here in town that could potentially do that. And I'll be glad to go talk to the business. But I don't want Jose to be forgotten. He was special, and he deserves to be remembered. So that concludes that comment. I did want to say, on a happy note, that the UCLA men's hockey team, on their home ice at the Cube, that sounds really good, on their home ice at the Cube, starting October 7th at 8:30 p.m., cheer on the Bruins as they play against Loyola Marymount University. And throughout the next 6 months, residents and visitors can come and enjoy 16 UCLA games at the Cube. While you're there, be sure to stop by the grill for food, drinks, and snacks. You have to do the commercial along with the, So anyway, I think it's just going to be really lovely to be able to do that. So that concludes my comments. We're now going to go to our public hearings, item number 1. Anybody need a break? Are you good? Good, okay. We're going to go to item number 1. And this is a public hearing to approve the implementation and financing of the city's energy infrastructure modernization program and the proposed issuance of a public financing authority lease revenue bonds. This is the time and place for public hearing to approve the implementation and financing of the city's Energy Infrastructure Modernization Program, proposed issuance of Public Financing Authority Lease Revenue Bonds, Energy Efficiency Program, Series 2022A, Green Bonds, and 2022B, Green Bonds, and approval of documents. This hearing is officially open. We will now receive comments, questions, oral protests from any interested persons. When all your comments have been received, the hearing will be closed. City Clerk, could you please report on the hearing notice?
All notices required by law have been provided.
Thank you. City staff will now make their presentation, after which the public has an opportunity to comment. With that, I would like to turn the time over to Darren Siegmiller, the city's Environmental Service Manager. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor West and members of the City Council. My name is Darren Siegmiller, and I am the city's Environmental Services Manager. Tonight, we'll be discussing the city's proposed Energy Infrastructure Modernization Program. This evening, I'll provide a brief overview of the process we've undertaken up to this point, and I'll also review the program's benefits, details regarding specific projects within the program, and staff's recommendation for financing the program. As part of the Santa Clarita 2025 strategic plan, the city has been evaluating opportunities to complete energy efficiency project upgrades to all city facilities. The measure was born from 3 primary objectives. First, there is a need to revitalize much of the city's aging infrastructure that is currently past its useful life and prone to failures. Specifically, there is a need to address issues with HVAC equipment at city buildings, irrigation controllers throughout city parks, and ice refrigeration equipment at the Cube, among other projects. Also, with utility costs continuing to increase, there is a desire to mitigate the impact of future rate increases. For example, over the past 5 years, Southern California Edison rates have increased at a pace that is almost double the rate of the Consumer Price Index. And finally, there is a desire to promote sustainability through the use of renewable energy and smart technologies. To achieve this objective, a request for proposals was posted on BidNet last year, seeking a qualified energy service company capable of developing and implementing the city's projects. 53 companies downloaded the RFP, and the city received 5 proposals. Climatech's proposal, interview, and references demonstrated their reputable qualifications for the project. Furthermore, Climatech demonstrated that it has the experience and resources required to provide quality service, sustained efficiencies, and the energy cost savings expected by the city. On November 9th, 2021, the City Council awarded a no-cost professional service agreement to Climatech for the development of the program. So over the past 9 months, staff has been working with Climatech to analyze the city's utility usage and conduct a citywide assessment of aging infrastructure in the areas of HVAC, interior and exterior lighting, sports field lighting, building automation systems, windows, roofing, ice rink refrigeration, irrigation, pool heating, solar, backup power, and battery storage. As a result of this analysis, Climatech and staff have developed a program that will address nearly all of the needs previously mentioned, providing benefits to the city in 3 main areas. Operationally, many of the proposed projects will replace critical infrastructure that is past its useful life. The program will also modernize and centralize the outdated systems that control HVAC equipment at city facilities and irrigation equipment at city parks. Through this program, projects will be managed by Climatech and completed within 24 months. If the city were to manage these projects through its typical process, we estimate that it would take approximately 5 years to complete them. Financially, this program will generate utility savings that will help fund the proposed projects. In fact, the energy savings realized by solar alone will generate approximately 66% of the project's guaranteed savings. It's important to note that the installation of solar at city facilities now will allow the city to be grandfathered into the Net Energy Metering 2.0 program, which allows the city to receive maximum bill credits for the excess electricity that the solar panels would produce. If the city were to wait to implement the solar program after Net Energy Metering 3.0 rules take effect, it's likely that the bill credits received by the city would be much less, and the solar savings could be reduced by approximately $5 million over the life of the project. Beyond its operational and financial benefits, this program demonstrates the city's commitment to environmental stewardship. If implemented, this project will result in the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by over 3,000 metric tons per year, which is the equivalent of taking 716 gas-powered cars off the road each year. All right, so now I'd like to review just a list of the projects that are being proposed as part of the program. We have solar panels that are being proposed to be installed on rooftops and parking structures at 6 sites. Solar thermal pool water heating at 3 sites. Battery storage systems at 2 sites. Roof replacement at the Cube. Solar control window film at 2 sites. New LED sports field lighting at 7 sites. Interior LED lighting at 27 sites. Exterior LED lighting at 36 sites. Occupancy sensors at 30 sites. High efficiency HVAC upgrades at 15 sites. New building automation systems at 25 sites. And just for your information, a building building automation system, is the centralized and automated control of a building's HVAC and lighting equipment through a web-based management system. This allows staff to remotely control building systems and limit unnecessary overusage. Speaking of the Cube is now one of the city's largest and most popular facilities. It also happens to provide the city with the biggest opportunities for savings. And most of the equipment at the Cube is original and well beyond its useful life. And as a result, we're recommending that the Cube get a new refrigeration plant for the ice rink, a new roof, as I mentioned earlier, a new dehumidification system, and HVAC systems, in addition to lighting. Moving away from the Cube to the city parks, smart irrigation controllers will be installed at 24 park sites. And again, like the building automation systems, the smart irrigation controllers can be managed at a central location, web-based. And the current irrigation controllers are well past their useful life and prone to failure. All right. The program has a total cost of a little over $35 million and is proposed to be financed through a combination of cash, tax-exempt bond financing, and a $3 million California Energy Commission, or CEC loan. Additionally, with the recent passage of the Federal Inflation Reduction Act, the clean electricity tax credit provisions are being closely monitored by staff and Climate Tech. And depending on the final rules, the city may be able to access funds from this and other programs that would reduce the city's capital outlay. So the cost of the program, inclusive of financing, is about $46,538,000, which is slightly less than the overall savings of about $46,592,000. The savings are generated from three areas. First, the project will generate utility savings of almost $31 million. These are funds that would have been paid to Southern California Edison and other utilities throughout the useful life of the equipment that can now be used to pay for the improvements. Operational savings reflect the city's reflect savings rather to the city's operating budget as a result of replacing antiquated equipment that is costly to maintain with new equipment that's under warranty. Examples of operational savings include repairs, maintenance, Band-Aids, service calls, and outsourced labor that will no longer be required to keep old equipment running. The inflation savings represent the savings generated by completing all of the projects as part of the proposed agreement now versus completing them as projects in the city's CIP process over a 5-year period. Utility and operational savings of over $35 million is contractually guaranteed by Climate Tech over the useful life of the equipment. But the savings are projected to exceed that amount by an additional $6.3 million. Guaranteed savings will be measured and verified annually as identified in the proposed measurement and verification agreement. And in the event that annual savings do not meet the guaranteed projected savings, then Climate Tech is obligated to repair, replace, or substitute the measure that is not performing to the required level at Climate Tech's sole expense within 12 months. If, after the opportunity to make corrections, the verified savings are less than the guaranteed project savings, then Climate Tech must pay the city the shortfall amount. With that, staff recommends the council conduct a public hearing, adopt a resolution to make certain findings and approve the implementation and financing of the city's energy infrastructure modernization program in accordance with Government Code Section 4217. Award the city's energy infrastructure modernization program installation agreement to Climate Tech and appropriate the required funds. Award the measurement and verification agreement to Climate Tech upon completion and acceptance of the project, contingent upon appropriation of the funds in the annual budget for such fiscal years. Continuing, recommend that you adopt the resolution approving the issuance of Santa Clarita Public Financing Authority lease revenue bonds. Adopt a resolution declaring the intent to reimburse certain expenditures from the bond proceeds. Adopt a resolution authorizing the application for an energy efficiency loan from the California Energy Commission, and authorize the city manager or designee to execute all documents subject to the city attorney approval. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. And we also have representatives from the city's finance division and Climate Tech available if necessary.
Thank you very much, Darren. Mary, do we have a request to speak on this item? And thank you, Darren. Good report.
Thank you.
We have 4 speakers. Our first one will be Tony Maldonado, and Tony will be followed by Elaine Ballas, followed by Santa Rivera, and our final speaker will be Steve Petzold.
Madam Mayor, an aside for about 10 seconds. I would like to let the city council know and also the city manager know that we're not represented completely by some of the individuals that spoke here regarding Bridge to Home. And we support all your efforts and endeavors trying to get this forward as far as the project is concerned. So thank you for all that.
Thank you, Tony.
Now, if I may continue now.
Can you
also.
start his time over?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Members of the City Council, unfortunately, in my humble opinion, the City Manager's Office has dumped all these documents for the public to inspect with just a few days' notice. It's incredulous that the City Manager's Office believes that the general public has been given sufficient time to review and thoroughly inspect a 10-page agenda report of over 4,000 words and the accompanying 17 attachments on a matter of such consequence as $50 million in bonds that are due in 28 years and 13 years respectively. How are we supposed to do our due diligence as fiscally responsible citizens and residents if we permit the council to approve this in haste? It would be reckless for us to permit the council to rush this through carelessly and without proper extended deliberations. I believe that the general public should be given a reasonable time of at least 2 weeks in order to thoroughly review this document dump and not be forced to make decisions based on PowerPoint slides, as these are not simple items for many in the general public to quickly comprehend, let alone support, unless they have a superb understanding of finance and bond underwriting. Do I believe something nefarious is occurring? No. But I do believe that we're being unduly forced to rush through a process of significant magnitude simply to meet the city manager's office timeline, rather than for any other purpose. I believe that given our superb Standard & Poor's AAA+ rating, the bond market would not penalize us for taking the additional time to do our due diligence. The proposed bonds are expected to be rated by Standard & Poor's Corporation and are expected to be sold with a AA+ category rating. However, as we all know, the devil's in the details. And unfortunately, I cannot in good faith support the council moving forward with this matter today, as the problem is that we have not had enough time to fully scrutinize this fully under such time constraints. Surely the city manager's office, the bond underwriters, and the bank trustees can appreciate our desire of good governance and due diligence. Therefore, out of an abundance of caution, I propose and request for the City Council to defer full discussion and any approval of these bond measures to the next City Council general meeting of Tuesday, October 11, 2022, as I believe that would provide more than sufficient time for everyone to get on the same page and therefore be willing to support this wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Next speaker will be Elaine Ballas.
I second that because we've already run into problems with bonds and we're facing more bond issues right now because of College of Canyons. And I totally support Steve Petzold, having been a victim of their insanity as well. So I think we do need more time to understand the bond issues. I know someone who works on Wall Street who does bonds, and I didn't have time to even talk to him about what this would entail. I don't think it's fair to us. I think it's undue taxes that you're asking us to pay, and will some of the fees be dropped for the people? And who's paying for all these bonds? And the other thing, my big question is, the cube was closed for so long. When you reopened it, where was the foresight to see some of the things, replace some of the things? It didn't have to be opened immediately. I mean, why are we constantly paying? I mean, it's almost like a money pit. And I know you were informed, because I informed you of a lot of the problems that you were going to engage in with the cube, which you are engaging in with the cube, and ice rinks. I mean, I was a professional skater since age 8. I've been around them a long time. And the things that are going on at the cube, most of them probably could have been avoided had you just done everything properly at the onset, and you were warned. I gave you enough information about that, and it was totally ignored. So now we're paying. And when do the residents get something? I mean, you just dump stuff on us and then expect us to just say, oh, sure, fine, no problem. I mean, if you guys have so much surplus and are doing all of your due diligence, why are we in this position? And I think a lot of it, and especially with the cube, there's no excuse, absolutely none. It all could have been prevented at the onset before you opened that rink. A lot of it, I mean, the roof, the pipes should have been brand new before you laid any ice down. You can't use half and half. It doesn't work, and it didn't work because the first week the cube was opened, one ice surface was down because of it. Do your due diligence and quit blaming us and expecting us to pay for things.
Santa Rivera.
Good evening again. I too agree with the two speakers that came up before me. It is a lot, and I know that it's a lot for you guys as well. So I do agree that, maybe giving the people more chance might be a little bit more helpful. But I just wanted to, I guess, maybe confirm if my understanding of what you guys want to do is correct. My understanding is basically you want to do some upgrades that will be, that will save energy. And according to what you just showed us, possibly save us a little bit when you were doing the expense and the cost. So that's what I understand about this, but I did have a question on the solar panels. I was curious, can the energy that's collected from the solar panels be saved? Does it have to be used right away? Can it be saved for later? How does that work? And if the case is that it cannot be saved, if you were to, let's say, outsource it or sell it to somebody else, would you guys be selling it with the certificate that it comes with? Just because I've been recently made aware of the greenwashing. If you watch the video on YouTube, it's called Greenwashing, and it's Jim Phelps. And he describes how a lot of these solar panel and green energy collecting services, the way I understood it, he explained you can't save the energy, but I'm not really sure or aware of that. So I was just curious about that, and I just wanted to make sure that I understood that you guys are just basically doing some upgrades and with energy saving items. Thank you.
Thank you, Santa. And our last speaker will be Steve Petzl.
Yes, Mayor. At the very minimum, I ask that you table this item until the next meeting so that the public can investigate it. I've been through this with College of the Canyons. They sit there and say, we got to rush this deal to market right now because construction costs are going up, interest rates are up. Well, I haven't heard. What's the payment rate on this bond that you propose to issue? Will you please ask the city manager to address that issue? We've been through this before. When the Cube ice station was purchased, I said, you have two appraisals in your package there, one at $9 million and one at $15 million. We're putting in a $300,000 pizza oven over there. And now you need more money to put solar panels on the top of it so that you can get the energy to it? I mean, are the Edison people still here? Honestly, for the minimal savings that I saw $1 million savings by putting this bond issue on, and I still don't believe the numbers that were presented to you tonight. So I ask you to bring this back. I want the opportunity to analyze it with experts. There's no reason to rush this to market. When I hear that you're, using the Inflation Reduction Act of President Joe Biden, nobody believes that that's going to reduce inflation. You're just rushing us over the cliff. Between the fields at Central Park and now this, you know what? No wonder we're going over the cliff. Interest rates are up. Construction costs are up. You have no idea really what this is going to cost. I don't believe a number that was given on that board. It's time to take a deep breath and pause and not rush to adopt these green energy deals. You know, you just approved this biodiesel deal. You talk about greenwashing. By God, that is greenwashing. You know, these biodiesels for the buses, nobody knows what biodiesel costs because you're subsidizing over here with surcharging over there. You have no idea what you're doing. So you can sit there and you can look like you really know what you're doing. You have no idea what you're doing. So you go ahead and vote on this tonight, and I wish you all a good evening.
That concludes our public speakers on this item. And looking for my... So now I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment portion of the hearing. And we will now move to discussion and questions by council. Mayor Pro Tem Gibbs, you want to go first?
No, happy to. Thank you, Mayor. I mean, I will say when I first saw the item, I had myself some pause. When you see a large bond item cost like that, it makes you dig in and read it. I think what's important here is while the comparison of the project cost to the projected costs are very similar, what you really have happening here is the city having an opportunity to, instead of bypassing these projects and spending an additional $45 million on expected operation and electrical costs, you're turning that money that you're going to spend anyways into actual infrastructure costs. And so it was. I saw an opportunity here where you were literally getting a project that was paying for itself over the life of the project because of the benefits it provided, plus on top of that being a true, green energy efficient type program. I had asked the city manager a number of questions before the meeting about it, and I appreciate Darren and Mr. McKenna. Welcome back, by the way, sir. Congratulations on the baby. And Mr. Striplin on a number of these issues, the costs. And I did ask also about the CEC loan that was mentioned. And it's just another opportunity where we have the ability to get funding at a low percentage rate that we would have the ability to turn around and staff can do things with it, whether it's pay down on the bond early in order to lower those long-term costs, whether there's ways to invest that money here within the city to make more than the 1%. And I think as a council, we have long trusted staff to be able to do things that make economic sense. So to be able to say we sit on 20% operating reserves every year, it's not an accident. They're not taking shots in the dark. There was lots of data that was provided, and data that was provided showing how they come up with these conservative high-cost outlets to get an idea of what the project costs and the financing would be versus the savings. And so the couple of comments I just want to make specifically about the NEM 2.0, Darren. There's an item in here talking about that the PUC is looking at moving to a 3.0 system. And we talked about this over the last year, and this is a big deal because if I'm understanding correctly, what it will do is it's a way of disallowing residents and disallowing municipalities to bank credits that we make. So when you have solar energy that produces more than you use, typically you can bank the credits, but NEM 3.0 is talking about removing that or at least substantially reducing it to a certain degree. Am I understanding that program correctly?
Yeah, that's how it's proposed at this point, yes.
And so what you have here is if you get in before the 3.0 goes into effect or when the PUC decides to implement it, we will be grandfathered in so that we do fall under the ability to store more of the energy credits and hence save money. I believe that you talked about potentially $5 million or so based specifically on that.
Correct.
Darren, the only question I had is, were there projects that Climate Tech looked at and recommended that we didn't recommend?
Yeah, there were a couple, I think there were, basically the projects that we proposed were the ones that really needed to be done or that were included into this program, the ones that really need to be done or generate a lot of savings. So there were a couple of lighting projects throughout the landscape maintenance districts that we didn't include because they just didn't generate the savings that would help this project pencil out.
Okay. And then it was mentioned that there's a safeguard in place where if we're not getting the savings, the contractor becomes on the hook for repaying those savings. How does that work?
So that's part of the measurement and verification agreement that we'll enter into with Climatech once the project has been completed and accepted by the city. And then basically there will be an annual process to evaluate the savings based on energy bills and other metrics. And then each year we will evaluate, did we meet the savings that were anticipated? And if not, then we would work with Climatech and they would have an opportunity to fix those projects that were not generating the savings that were anticipated.
Okay. And then when you say when the project's complete, does that mean everything they proposed under the $35 million, or as we go along and different pieces are installed, we start verification at that point and don't just wait until the end of the project?
We wait until the end of the.
We do wait until the end. Okay. Hey, Mayor, that actually covers my questions for right now. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just want to mention something. Years ago, we were paying a ridiculous amount of electricity and to Southern California Edison, so we got solar. And it went along really good for a while until the PUC and Edison, we were saving so much energy, they decided that we needed to pay a fee. So it doesn't matter how much energy you save, you're paying $10 a month, regardless of whether you're using it or not. It seems to me that what you were talking about with not allowing you to bank the electricity and the savings and such, they want to charge you more. So I don't know when that's going to take effect, but like Jason said, you got to get in so that you're grandfathered in under the old rules rather than their innovative thinking just to figure out how to charge you more. So it's like a catch-22. They want you to save energy, use less electricity, so you get solar and do that, and then they charge you every month because you're saving electricity and taking the onus off the grid. It makes no sense at all. So I agree with what you're saying, and interest rates are going up by the minute, so we probably do need to get going and get the lowest interest rate that we can as well. So.
What's the interest rate on the bonds again?
4.75, 4.35, something like. It's right in the agenda item.
Dave, we don't ask questions from the audience unless you're invited to the podium. Thank you. Cameron?
No, just real quick, I think, this is the kind of innovation that we want to see, as a growing city in a transitioning time when a lot of the infrastructure does need to be upgraded, and then the lifespan is coming to an end. And so being proactive and looking at citywide, how do we address these infrastructure needs? And then, as Mayor Pro Tem alluded to, not only addressing them, but utilizing a way to make them basically pay for themselves. And throughout the life of the bonds, and then to have the energy efficiency to go along with it. I think this is why we are recognized from other cities because of the innovation that we use to look to solve problems here. So, and I would agree, as the bond market continues to change daily, a delay could cost. Have an impact if delay, and I feel comfortable with the report and the outline, the materials provided by the staff to move forward with this as the recommended action. And again, I think it's a great opportunity for us to make the necessary upgrades and in effect having them pay for themselves. So that's what I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Bill?
Yeah, I agree with everything Cameron said, but I'm also very amazed that we were able to negotiate the kinds of guarantees to this contract that we have. I don't know who's negotiating for Climactic, but you're on the hook for a large responsibility, and our city will hold you accountable. So if you want to get out of the deal, get out now. But yes, I'm in favor of going forward with it.
Right. I just want to say it's always amazing when we have big issues where we're able to tackle them and find mechanisms to benefit our community. All of these improvements to 14 buildings and all the fields and the irrigation and the film on the windows and HVACs throughout these buildings, all of these things are environmental upgrades. It's a city working to go green and to save you money, not to be in a constant combative thing with energy, but to work with it to get to where we are efficient and to save dollars in doing it, because you're going to have to do all these things one way or the other. It's not like there's going to be a choice over the long haul. Cities that just wait, it's going to get a lot more expensive pretty soon. I don't know how soon, but pretty soon. And there was a time, you go back, and interest rates were floating at 6 points over prime, and prime was at 14 to 16%. People lost their property, really bad things happened. And we hope it never gets like that, but this is still a good time. If these things need to be done, which they do, and we can save energy, be environmentally conscious, make the things that our community uses be more energy efficient and allow them to enjoy what they have and to save water. This is a really important thing. Irrigation controllers that are smart irrigation save tremendous amount of water. And we're one of the few cities that do that. And I'm just, if you've got Climatech agreed to that, great. I'm thrilled to see us have that kind of contractual opportunity. And I think that's all the comments I have. Anything else, Council? Okay.
Mayor, do you mind, excuse me, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Do you mind if I do address a few comments
Please.
I think is important? There was a comment meant about the city manager's office or the city rushing the project. We've been working on this project for almost a year. It's an extensive project that included, several people from different areas, engineers, project managers, everything that was involved. The scope of the project was negotiated, was diligently reviewed. We have financial advisors, we have bond counsels, we have engineers, we have environmental engineers. So it has been a huge team effort that has gone through multiple iterations to get to what's presented before the council tonight. And as you guys all, I think, articulated well the benefits of the project, I just want to make sure that there's sometimes things are thrown out in public comment that are simply false. We have no problems with any of our bonds. We never have. I want to make that clear. Tax increases, we are not requesting any tax increases from anybody. And then finally, when do the residents get something? It was interesting that the cube was used as an example. And I would highlight that when that question is raised, the residents get the cube. It's been an amazing facility that we've invested money in to make better and better. It's a facility that, as we took on, had a lot of issues that we had to bring up to speed because it was run by the private sector and not run tremendously well. But it is also one of our biggest success stories. We figured it would take us somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 years to even break even. That facility has done an amazing job of not only attracting residents, non-residents, tournaments, filming, everything under the sun, everything that we imagined and more. And I believe that is actually a great example of when we do things like this, the answer is what do they get? They get things like the cube. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Yeah, and I think we should reiterate one more time, this isn't a tax increase to anybody. This is just literally using our mechanisms to contract and to use bonding for money that we will be saving. All right, well, council, if there's no other comments from all of you, I would be glad to entertain a motion.
I'll move the recommended action.
Yep, second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Smythe?
Aye.
Councilwoman McLean?
Yes.
Councilmember Miranda,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gibbs,
Aye.
Mayor West.
Aye. Thank you. We will now move to new business, number 2. And we will now proceed to new business, consideration of a sponsorship agreement with Kaiser Permanente at Santa Clarita Aquatic Center. City staff will now make a presentation, after which the public will have an opportunity to comment. I'd like to turn this time over to Economic Development Administrative Analysis, Chris Page. And you go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor West, and members of the City Council. My name is Chris Page, Administrative Analyst for Economic Development. The item before you this evening is a presentation on a potential sponsorship with Kaiser Permanente at the Santa Clarita Aquatic Center. If approved, this agreement will generate $50,000 annually over the course of 5 years for a total of $250,000. The agreement would also rebrand the facility as the Santa Clarita Aquatic Center presented by Kaiser Permanente. First, I'd like to provide a bit of background for the City Council on this particular sponsorship. The Economic Development team began marketing this opportunity to potential sponsors in 2017. Since then, staff has engaged with dozens of local and national businesses to discuss this opportunity. Kaiser Permanente has been a city sponsor for over a decade, and they've continued to support health and wellness related events and activities throughout the city, including the Santa Clarita Marathon, the Youth Sports Expo, and the Amgen Tour of California. Considering the city and Kaiser Permanente's aligned goals of enhancing health and wellness for our community members, staff is recommending partnership with Kaiser on this project. The current slide depicts signage that will be implemented upon execution of the agreement. This includes sponsor designation on 2 of the digital scoreboards, 14 total light pole banners, and a custom banner at the top of the activity pool slide. The agreement also provides an opportunity for the sponsor to install mutually agreed upon signage at their cost. These examples include sponsor designation on the external building face, branding on shade structures, and then branded kickboards at the facility. The sponsorship program is a benefit to both the city and our local businesses. For the city, it helps subsidize programs and activities that the city provides. For the businesses, it helps them expand their brand awareness and reach more potential customers. The proposed partnership here demonstrates how our business community embraces priorities that the City Council has established, resulting in a positive impact on our community. Our recommended action tonight is to approve and authorize the city manager or a designee to execute the sponsorship agreement with Kaiser Permanente for presenting level sponsorship of the Santa Clarita Aquatic Center subject to city attorney approval, and increase sponsorship revenue account by $50,000. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Do you have any questions of Chris? Okay. Can I have the speaker cards? Thank you. Okay. Start with Tony Maldonado and move to Elaine Balask and then Santa Rivera.
Hello again. First and foremost, I'm a capitalist, and I always look for good value for money, and I fully support creative partnerships between ourselves and our business community. But unfortunately, I find this one hard to support as it's confounding and draws away from our feeling of community. I'm generally not opposed to branding of certain public spaces, properties, and programs when it's deemed truly appropriate and will not take away from that sense of community. I most definitely support the branding of events and programs, as that can enhance community connections with businesses and other organizations that support that particular effort. However, this one is a bit hard to accept, as Kaiser Permanente is a corporate healthcare provider whose normative practice is to provide services exclusive to their membership alone. And the Aquatic Center is a local service open to the entire community, not to a select few. If this was the case that it was free Saturday afternoon swimming brought to you by Kaiser Permanente, then I and many others will happily support this, and we can see great value in this. That will be a valued service. But to simply slap a corporate name to a long-lasting community location simply to make profit, that I take issue with. I believe that this particular branding will alienate some local community members who may not be members of Kaiser Permanente and who may unknowingly assume that the aquatic center will now be restricted to members of that health plan. Believe it or not, where are we going to spend the money in order to actually convince the people that this is not the case? We have to be honest about that. We would have to have an honest conversation with the people in regards to that. In my humble opinion, certain aspects of city services should remain non-commercial, as we are a city, not a business. So what's next? The Santa Clarita Public Library, Joanne Darcy Canyon Country branch brought to you by Barnes & Nobles? Central Park brought to you by KB Homes? Shall we also co-brand City Hall, our community centers, or our city's vehicles? Where does it end? In a sense, it's like asking us to sell our souls just to make a return on our investments. Again, we are a city and a large community, not a business. So unless these extra revenue streams are going to dramatically benefit the residents, or at least benefit our lowest paid employees, I don't see the purpose in commercializing all of our city-owned properties any further. We did not incorporate as a city in 1987 in order to later lose our identity and soul and become Santa Clarita, Inc. So let's have a rethink on this and become a bit more creative, find something more mutually beneficial to residents in Kaiser Permanente that we can all be happily agreed with. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. The next speaker will be Elaine Ballas.
Yes, I feel like the city is becoming the Indy 500.
Elaine wants to get down. There you go. There you go.
She.
She.
I just feel like the city is becoming the Indy 500 with all of our sponsorships. I mean, are we a city or are we like, you know, influencers on the internet or something where we're getting branded and sponsored? Everything is a sponsorship. And I agree with Tony, and I didn't really think of that at first, but Kaiser Permanente doesn't have the greatest reputation. And when you're saying that the aquatic center is going to be like, it's brought to you by Kaiser Permanente, it really does have a negative connotation. And we only have one hospital here as it is, so people are going to think that there's a hospital here too, or they're supporting it. And I really don't think that that should be, that that's the proper mix for the aquatic center. I think when you're dealing with something as controversial and political as Kaiser Permanente, I think you really should take another look at it. And I really don't understand why we need to brand everything that we do. And I agree with Tony. I mean, what's next? Are we the Indy 500 or are we a city? I mean, if we're a city with surplus all the time, then why do we need to partner with everybody? Can't we be our own city without partnering? I mean, I know a lot of people who wouldn't want to go there if it had the name on it. It has a very negative connotation to a lot of people. And I can have a friend come sometime and talk to you about it because her law firm represented them. So it's not a good idea, and it's not one I would support. And come on, we're a city. Let's be proud to be a city. We don't need to have somebody as a sponsorship for every single thing and every single building. Thank you.
Santa?
Hello again. It's the last time for tonight, promise. So I actually had a couple of questions. I don't know if they'll be answered, but in there you mentioned the $250,000 over 5 years, and it said directly to SCV was my understanding. So I was wondering what you meant by that. Is it going to go to the people of Santa Clarita, or how? What that meant exactly, as well as, is that going to be taxed? And if it is taxed, how much, at what percentage? And then I also wanted to mention, because I actually agree with what the speakers before me said about all the branding that we're doing. I was curious, would you be able to get together with local businesses and maybe start using our local businesses to sponsor places out here in their local city. I think having their name, I don't know, it's just an idea that I think that maybe is something you could look into instead of, like Mr. Maldonado said earlier, about going with a large corporation. We should give the little people a chance. You know, what's happening and what has happened and transpired and has become public in the past 3 years has made it very obvious that these big companies and corporations, their intentions are not good for the people. So maybe we should look into maybe getting sponsors that are more local and businesses that are local here to help promote them, and then maybe we can help each other as a community and a city. Thank you.
Thank you, Santa. All right. Council. Well, let's see. We have some staff comments, I'm sure.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Years ago, the council adopted a sponsorship program, and Mr. Page spends a lot of time going out and working with not only some of these larger businesses, but a lot of our local businesses as well. The sponsorship program has been hugely successful. There's, once again, a number of local businesses that have the opportunity to engage in whether it's events, scoreboards, or a multitude of different opportunities. And we are somewhat selective. We don't brand everything. We don't, I think as you look at around the city, we really don't brand that much. But we do look for opportunities that provide a mutual benefit for the businesses, the community, as well as the city's budget. In regards to the question about the money goes to the general fund, which enables the council to provide things like the sheriff's department, recreation programs, and things that add to the quality of life here in Santa Clarita. The tax question, I don't know that I understand. We're not taxed. We're in a government agency, so we're not taxed on that revenue. But the money goes back to the general fund, which again enables the council to put together a multitude of programs and services that serve the residents of Santa Clarita. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Council. Start with you, Marcia.
Sure. I have absolutely no problem with Kaiser Permanente. They are consistently rated #1 among the health organizations, and they give excellent health care. What I do have a concern about, I guess, is $50,000 isn't very much. And I think if Kaiser Permanente wants to brand with us on the aquatic center, it should be at the very least $75,000. So I think we need to ask for more money, because what do you get for $50,000 these days? Not a whole lot.
Any comments on the left?
Just quick, City Manager, do we have other comparable sponsorships like this?
The most comparable one to this is the one we did at the Cube with 5 points.
And what
Which
was
I believe
that?
that was 50,000 over 7 years? Yeah, 50,000
That was
over
50
7.
over
This is
7.
50 over 5.
Okay.
50,000 total?
$50,000, yeah, so 250,000 and
Okay.
350,000.
Didn't clarify that, but I'm glad you did. Thank you. All right, and any other questions, Bill?
No, I think these sponsorships gain more value the longer they come into play. So at renewal time, what's $50,000 now might be 2, 3, 4 times the amount based on the value.
Other than signs on particular locations, there's no other benefits for them? In other words, it's just signage for the most part. Ken?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct, yes.
All right, thank you. I can't hear you. All right. Well, we have some sponsorships, and we have the Cube. You have Logix, Credit Union, and I would think that this is just one more, and I don't have any more questions.
Can we negotiate for more, or is it an absolute done deal? I mean, we do have the Trek Bike Park, and we have the Cube, which are the two tangibles. The other ones, Logix, they sponsor events, not things. I don't know, but I think you guys need to ask for more money for these sponsorships. I mean, they're getting a really good advertising for just $50,000. I mean, I'm not gonna say no to this basically because I know it's a benefit somewhat, but for the future, I think you need to ask for more money.
Mayor, I move for the recommended action.
I have a motion.
Yep, second.
I have a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Gibbs,
Aye.
Councilmember Miranda,
Yes.
Councilmember Smythe,
Aye.
Councilwoman McLean,
Sure, but I want more money next time.
Mayor West.
Aye. All right, we're now going to go into consent calendar. And Mary, do you have speaker cards there? Here, these are completed. I will say I'm very thrilled to hear speakers say, hey, we're a great city, basically, and, you know, we like who we are, and that's the good part. I think our staff's just trying to keep it that way, every way they can. Is this the only speaker card I have? Yeah. Okay, I have one speaker card, and it's for item 8, and it's Jeffrey Malik. Come to the podium, please, Mr. Malik.
So if I could just start so everybody knows what item 8 is and anybody watching on video, it's the updates to the city's purchasing policy, which says the City of Santa Clarita's purchasing policy, last updated in 2020, serves to direct the city's procurement processes and ensure fiscally responsible purchasing activities. The proposed updates primarily include contractual signing authority processes, procurement approaches, and a few clarifying items. I question whether, so the development in this community, as you heard, a lot of the community members love this city. But as we've heard in all the forums and everything, the development kind of needs a pause for a second. And we need to really think about the money that we're spending. To be honest with you, I kind of challenge all of you, can you even tell me what the purchasing policy actually is? Not asking your staff or anything. If you were to quote to the community members here, could you actually tell them what it is? Tonight is the first time, Mr. Gibbs, I don't comment very often, but it's the first time I actually heard actual questions asked before approving something. As you know, I work as a chief of staff, and I question things like with the climate tech. Did you all actually receive the RFP and look it over? I understand that your staff looked through it and you do it. If you did, that's great. I'm just asking a question. Because we keep purchasing things, and again, with the homeless shelter, I know it's Bridge to Home. Thank you for the response, Mr. Striplin, and please let me know if I can help and follow up with them or send me those emails. Again, I'm just questioning our purchasing policy. What are we buying in these developers that we're working with? It seems that nothing is affordable in this community. It's one of the main topics you all keep mentioning at the forums as well, affordable housing. So again, I'm not sure that I'm really questioning your knowledge of what the actual purchasing policy is. And to me, it's a little naive to just put this on the consent calendar without proposing it to the actual community and telling people and actually updating more than just this little paragraph here. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Well, Ken, I know you've purchased tractors, cars, trucks, tree trimming equipment, pool equipment. You've purchased paper, ink, every kind of supply known to man, and every single one has to have a policy. And you change them all the time because we have to update with the law and what the new rules and regulations are. And maybe you'd like to go ahead and explain some of that, and then we'll
Yes, thank you, Mayor. That is correct. Obviously, the purchasing policy governs how we, from a logistical, procedural, and policy standpoint, go through the process of acquiring or purchasing assets, services, or materials. The item before you tonight has nothing to do with development. It has simply policy changes to how we sign contracts, who signs contracts, and secondly, it adds a provision in the purchasing code that deals with design build, which we currently do, but we're just adding it to the policy so that, to answer the question that was asked, so that the public has a document that illustrates and demonstrates across the board how we procure items, services, and capital equipment. Sometimes those changes are dictated by state law, such as capital projects. Sometimes they're dictated by what's happening in terms of the price of materials or services, and creating both a system of checks and balances as well as a system of efficiency and conducting business of the city. So once again, the item tonight has nothing to do with development or any other issues. It's particular to the delegation of contract signing, as well as adding the design build element to how we are able to bid contracts, which once again come before the city council for approval at that point in time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions of staff on anything?
Yeah, Mayor, I had one on this item.
Okay.
Ken, just to clarify, it does say that staff no longer requires approval from the council to use the method, but that's different than when you as staff decide that's the method you think is the best path forward for a particular project. That RFP still comes to us, or that request for the design build still comes to council for approval. And then once the design is completed, am I understanding correctly that staff will bring back the construction aspect of it for us to see, so we actually see the design before we acknowledge and move forward with the build part as well?
Yes, that's correct. It does not change the council's authority and approval responsibilities.
You're talking about projects we build for
Correct.
the public.
Yes,
Yeah,
projects we build.
we do not build houses. We build buildings for public use. So we are not in the development business. We're a contract city. I just want to clarify that for anybody that's wondering what this is about. Did you get your question?
Yes, ma'am.
answered?
That was one I had. Thank
All
you.
right, we've asked and answered.
And thank you for asking that, Jason.
Of course.
All right.
As Ken knows, that's one of my great concerns.
All right, this is consent calendar, and do you have any other questions for staff or any other comments? In that case, I have a motion from Councilman Smythe. I have a second from Councilwoman McLean. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Miranda,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gibbs,
Aye.
Councilwoman McLean,
Yes.
Councilmember Smythe, Mayor West.
Aye. That concludes consent. Do you have public speakers?
There are none for the second
All right,
participation.
thank you very much. We are going to adjourn in honor of a wonderful man, Jose Sanchez.